Welcome back to Reem and Beam Unplugged. This is episode 5. Today we have a legend here, a very special guest, the leader of the program, Coach Greg Schiano. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Thank you, fellas. I got one question, though, before you start asking me. 5? I'm the 5th guest? How could I drop all the way to 5th?
You know, we had to get the show rolling before we brought you on.
All right, I'll give you that.
All right, so today we're sitting in your office before the game. You know, no one's ever been in here. This is our first time being in here. It's a nice room, nice for recruiting. Why do you have this office?
Just for recruiting. Before the games, I've always talked to recruits. I feel like when guys take the time out of their weekend to come watch our games, I want to make sure that I get a chance to visit with their families and visit with them. But it's quick. I mean, we can't spend a lot of time because, you know, I get anxious because you hear the band going and you hear the music and I hear guys walking out to go down the tunnel and I'm sitting in here, but I always time it up. There was one time that I almost missed the end of warm-ups. This family was going to commit. The player was going to commit, and I felt like we were close, and I kept going, and the clock's up there. I kept checking the clock. Finally, I said, all right, I got to go. We didn't get the commit, but we got it later, so it all ended well.
So, Coach, do your mind, do it be racing at that point? Are you thinking about the game, what's about to go on, or, are you worried about the recruits at that moment?
Well, I'm focused on the game, but you have to be able to, as a head coach, you have to be able to put that aside and do your job of recruiting because that's, that may be the only time other than their official visit that you're going to get the young man and his family on your campus. So you have to do it. But, yeah, it's hard. I mean, you talk about chopping now. That's chopping. You have to stay focused.
So, Coach, we got to ask this. Beam spoke about it in the first episode. He talked about you flying the chopper down there. What was going through your mind, Coach? What was going on around that time?
Well, because I was calling you trying to find out where the heck he was. Oh, man, that was awful. I kind of got new. I'm like, what? No chance. And then I drove over to your apartment complex. And I didn't even know where the heck you lived. I'm like, why did I drive over here? I don't even. So then I came back to the office and he said, no, he packed his stuff up because I think you called me from the road. Yeah, son of a gun.
Crazy.
So and then I forget who it was. One of the staffers said, well, it's too bad. I said, too bad my rear. So we got on. K-Mac got the helicopter lined up and. It was the worst, though, because I fly down there and I don't know where we landed. We landed somewhere nearby, and the car service is waiting to take me to your house. So we get there, and I knock, and nobody's home. So now I feel like a stalker. I'm sitting in the back of this SUV, kind of hiding, but waiting for your family to get home. And then your family gets home, and you're not with them. I'm like, son of a gun, this guy's ducking me. But the funny part of that was I knock on the door. They had ordered pizza. Your family had ordered pizza, and they thought I was the pizza man delivering the pizza. And they opened the door, and they're like, Coach? Yeah. Now, I really think they were pissed because they were hungry and they wanted a pizza. But I was like, yeah. And then I sat with the family for a while. Then Robert come walking in. Now, I'm sure they texted you and gave you a heads up, right?
They were like, get home immediately. I'm like, oh, man, what's going on? They're like, just get home. Somebody's here. I said, no way. I'm like, no way. But, yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah. We weren't going to let that was misinformation galore. And we weren't going to let that happen. And thank God it worked out, right? Because mainstay of our team, as you know, and a big part of what's going to lead us to victory next year. So sure glad it worked out.
Yeah, it really meant a lot for you to do that. So I really thank you. And I know my family thanks you as well because that really was life-changing for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're one of us and your family's one of us, as you know. Like that's the biggest thing we look for is fits. It's the same way with you and your family. When I came down, recruited you when you were in high school, right? We got hired and came down, and your mom and dad, your family, we ate in the dining room there, right? I mean, when you know the family and the players a fit, you got to get it done. You got to find a way to get it done. So now you guys got your own TV show. What is this? A TV show or pod? What do they call these podcasts?
Podcast.
This is a podcast.
Podcast.
I'm on a podcast, huh?
Yes, sir.
That's
Coach.
pretty cool.
Yes, sir.
Pretty excited about that.
We know you played ball back at Bucknell. Were you really nice, or because I ain't seen no clips or nothing, Coach? Like,
what is
but
nice?
you tell us,
What
though.
is nice? Certified nice.
So like,
it's like leading your league in tackles. Nice.
nah, Coach. Like, you know if you nice.
Was you a playmaker out there?
Yeah, Coach. Like, did you make plays? Like,
Well,
did
wait
you?
a minute. Isn't leading your league in tackles nice?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's nice.
Oh, that's what you did, Coach.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, cuz I love.
Now, you would have laughed. I had these gigantic pads. And back in the day, they had the horse collar on. Right?
Linebacker.
Oh, yeah. Looked stiff as a board, which I was. But that's why I was playing there and not here.
Your attention to detail is crazy. Like, nothing can really get by you. Where did that form, and, like, who were the mentors that helped you develop that?
Yeah, I've been blessed, really blessed. Like I tell you guys, if you want to do something, find someone that's done it right and then copy them, right? And then you put your own slant on it. But I was really fortunate from the very beginning. My first coaching job, rather, was at my high school for my high school coach, Mike Miello, who was unbelievable coach, multiple state championships. Then I went on and worked for Dick Anderson here. I was a graduate assistant. And Dick was the most organized human being I've ever been around. I learned so much about organization from him, details. Then I went to work for Coach Paterno, who, just the all-time winningest coach in college football history. And he taught me so much. There's not a day that goes by that I don't do something, usually many things that he taught me and that I kind of mimic after him. Then I got a chance to go to the Chicago Bears with Dave Wanstad, who was just a great motivator of teams and really a good, really fine defensive coach. Then I went to Butch Davis down at Miami, and boy, did he teach me a lot. I mean, he taught me how to be a head coach. He gave me opportunities. I had been preparing, but then he gave me the opportunity as a coordinator. He involved me in different things that usually you're not involved with, fundraising and drug testing and things like that usually don't fall to an assistant, but that was a great, great opportunity. And then I took this thing, and man alive, it was an adventure, right? 11 years, man. But all those guys helped me get to this point. And then once I took this over, it was kind of, you learn how to be a head coach, and it's different. You sit there as an assistant, probably like you sit there as a backup and say, I could do better than that, right? And then you get out there, you're like, ooh, this is hard, right? Yeah, it was hard learning how to be a head coach, and made a lot of mistakes, but the biggest thing, like I tell you, if you just keep going, and you keep going in the right direction, eventually you'll get there. And that's where chopping came about, that first go-round. And certainly as a program we had to do that, but as a head coach I had to do that.
What made you want to leave college coaching and then go to the NFL and coach there?
I didn't want to go to the NFL, but our league had fallen apart, and we had a chance on a handshake deal. We were going into the Big Ten after the 2010 season, and then it fell apart. And I looked up, and I'm like, I'm here 11 years. We're going to be playing in a conference, that I didn't sign up for, and had been trying to get into the Big Ten for 10 years and thought we were in. And then it got pulled away. I had promised all the guys I had recruited that I would never go to another college, and I swore that I wouldn't do that. And the NFL came calling, and I was afraid of Rutgers, and I ran from Rutgers. I didn't run to the NFL. It's the only thing in my life that I didn't prepare for. Like, being a head coach, I prepared my whole career as an assistant coach. I wanted to be a head coach, but I did not want to be a head coach in the NFL, but it really was the step that I could take to get away from what I thought was falling apart here. And then literally did I learn a lesson, right? You never run from something, right? You got to run to something. 18 months later, I'm sitting in my office in Tampa, and I get the call that Rutgers is in the Big Ten. I mean, I was happy for Rutgers, but man, was I sad. But by the grace of God, I got the chance to come back here and do, what I always dreamt of doing, and that's coaching at Rutgers in the Big Ten. So that's why it's such a passion of mine.
Yes, sir. So with that, like, with your history and the way you've changed programs and stuff, we know there's been other job offerings, but, like, what makes you want to stay at Rutgers, and what makes Rutgers so special to you?
Well, I got a second shot at my dream. Like, this was my dream. People used to say, "What? Rutgers is your dream job?" And for whatever reason, when I was a young coach, I used to run a lot. I was a jogger. And I would dream about putting staffs together as I was running. And it was always putting the staff together for Rutgers. And, back in what would have been the late 90s, not a lot of people were dreaming of being the coach at Rutgers. But for whatever reason, that's been my dream. And now getting to live it out at 57 years old is pretty cool.
Back in 06, that was a special time around here at Rutgers. What were the vibes like around here? Like, how did you know that team was going to be special?
Much like this team, we had a really, really good defense, like really good, suffocating. And at the time, we were running a defense that a lot of people hadn't seen at this level, and it's the defense you're running now. So now a lot of people have seen it 20 years later, but then it was kind of new to the football scene. We were doing a lot of movement stuff, and we were playing like suffocating defense and the same stuff, the kicking game. And then all of a sudden we got a guy by the name of Ray Rice, and I said, whoa. The first time I saw him take the ball in a team period, I literally was like, ooh, we got one. And we sure did. And it wasn't very long before I tell the story. Brian Leonard, who was the lead running back, he came to me. He said, Coach, you got to move me to fullback because this kid's good. And you talk about unselfish. When I talk to you guys about family and sacrifice, Brian Leonard was the ultimate. That's why I speak so highly of him. He was the ultimate sacrificial player. He literally volunteered to move to fullback because he knew Ray would help us be the best team we could be. And with some offense going now, we had a young freshman. His name was Kenny Britt. You guys know who Kenny is, but he was a freshman. And he started training camp late, but we saw him. I was like, oh, man, this guy is something. And he played a lot that year. In the back half of the season, he made some big plays. And so, yeah, I knew we had a really good defense. I knew we had a really good kicking game like we do now. And the offense started to come on. And you could see as the year was going on, like, oh, we got a chance. So, yep, that's what I'm hoping for.
Do you see similarities with Ray Rice and Kyle?
There are a lot. Yep. They're both not real tall guys, right? They're stocky guys, very similar measurements. If you look, and they run with a similar style. Ray was a little bit more, Kyle's a little bit more, the word linear, where Ray was kind of like a block. Mm-hmm. Now, they weigh the same, but Kyle runs with a little bit more of a vicious cut, where Ray kind of just rolled into things and then just blew out of there, But they were both very tough runners, so like they didn't shy away from contact. And I think what we saw in Ray is what we see in Kyle is he gets stronger as the game goes on. What starts as a 3-yard run turns into a 13-yard run in the fourth quarter. That's why it's so important for us to keep play from the lead or keep it even so you can continue to run because we wear people down. That was kind of the formula that year. Play really good defense, wear people down. And then as Kenny got better and Mike Teal got better, we started throwing the ball over the top. And, we had Coach Underwood, right? Ty was playing wide out for us. We had some really good players. Yep.
With the special teams, Coach, like you blocked the most punts in the history. Like what goes into those details and like what made you want to focus so much on the punt block aspect of special teams?
Well, like I always tell you guys, punt is the most important play in football. And if that's the most important play in football, then the next most important play has got to be the punt block, right? And we've just always put a ton of focus on that. That's how I grew up in coaching. And I look at punt team much like I do pass protection, and I look at punt block much like I do blitzes. So we scheme the punt. You guys know we scheme a punt block every week. We try to figure out their protections, and then you get the right guy doing it. That's the key. There's certain guys that are great blitzers. You're a great blitzer, right? When you come, your length and you anticipate and you really disrupt things. There's certain guys that are great punt blockers. And when you get one, you got, we just lost one in Max, right? It was as good as we had. Up until that point, I think Devin McCourty would have been the guy. But Max is definitely right there with them as two of the best punt blockers in Rutgers history. You think you might be able to be one next year or what?
I want to.
Okay.
I want to.
So let's get it done.
back in 2022, Coach, we had a little situation with Ohio State where we
No, you ain't doing that.
we were aligned wrong on punt block, punt return, and they took advantage and they kept the ball on 4th down, and AC had a hit out of bounds on their sideline. When you seen all the commotion and stuff, like, what was going through your head when you were running across the field?
The only thing was I wanted to get our players out of there. I didn't want anybody to get into a fight. We weren't winning that game, but I didn't want you guys missing the next week, somebody throw a punch and get suspended. So I rushed over there, try to get our guys out of there and keep it safe. And as you guys know, that year I was on a bad hip, so it was painful, as you can't imagine, right? That was a long run.
That was a long run.
Then it got out of hand. That wasn't one of my prouder moments, but Coach Day and our friends, and that was just competitiveness. But my whole thing was we need to get our guys out of there. And there was a swarm, it was on their sidelines, so there was a swarm of people around AC. And I don't hold, people are like, oh, Coach was mad because they ran a fake. They didn't run a fake. We messed up. And the punters taught if there's no one there, just keep going, like we do. Right. So there was I never have a problem. People, some people have a problem if you're losing and they're running it up. It's our job to stop them. I'm not into that. That's not right stuff. I just wanted to get our player out of there. But then when I got over there, people started talking stuff, and I lost my cool, which I shouldn't have. But I'm not proud of it. I know.
Football.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not. No, it's not. You know what I mean? No, you don't do that stuff. So, we all have our moments, right?
We all have our moments, yes, sir. So you talked about Max and Devin being the best punt blockers you had. But through your career in college football, who do you think the best player you've coached is?
Wow, that's a tough question. I've been blessed. I've coached some great players, Hall of Fame players. I guess it's got to be Ed Reed. I mean, Ed was different. Like, I had a lot of great players, but Ed was different in that he could do things that no one else that I've coached can do. And there's been some that have been close.
He was a ball hawk.
Yeah, I mean, just unbelievable athlete and sense, and could, not always exactly the way you drew it up, but he'd end up with the ball in his hands, and I'd be like, oh, no. Oh, yes. Yeah. The other guy who I coached in the NFL, I only got to coach him 2 years. I drafted him, though, was Lavonte David. He has turned out to be, I knew it. His second year, he had incredible numbers, like tackles, 5 interceptions, 5 sacks. I mean, he had a all-pro year, and he was a second-year player. And I said, well, I didn't get to keep coaching him, but man alive, as he had a tremendous career. And you could see that. He was smart, tough, dependable, all the things that that we love.
So you would say that's the best player you drafted while you were in the NFL?
Yeah, I think that's without a doubt. Yep. But I think Ed, just overall, all my years, Ed was just different.
Different, yeah.
He was.
People think you're a legend around here. Like, you got the most wins in Rutgers history. When you hear, like, people calling you that, a legend, like, what comes to mind?
Yeah, I don't buy into that very much. It's a low bar for a legend. But we haven't begun to write our history here, right? What we're going to do here is all going forward. And I'm young. I feel great, and I can't wait, to watch you guys do it this year. And then the thing that, I always say to you guys, tradition isn't singing a song or touching a statue. That's nice. But tradition is what you pass on to the young guys. And I love watching the way you guys, we finally got it back to now where this culture and this program from top to bottom is united and is on the same page, right? There's only one vision, and it's vertically aligned. So I love watching that as it gets passed down through the different classes. And we got it cooking again. So that's the most important thing. You can never get away from who you are.
So with us in the program of rebuilding, in the process of rebuilding, we finally got back to a bowl game and were able to win a bowl game. What does that do for us taking the steps in the right direction where we need to go?
Well, that was a big goal of ours, right? To get back to a bowl, which, again, when you're building something, those are stepping stones. Is that the goal? No, that's not the goal. I've used because of New Jersey in the Parkway, the exit metaphor, right? It's an exit, but it's not the exit. So it's good. step in the right direction. It was fun, right? It was a good little taste. But, you know, our vision, our goal is much bigger than that.
Way bigger. Way bigger. So we are who we are, and we know who we are at Rutgers, right? So in the interview you did, you came out and said we had some recruits that were at practice, and they saw how hard we practiced and decided it wasn't the best place to be for them. So, like, with that, what do you think it takes to really be a Rutgers player and to do what we do?
You got to love it. Yeah, I always tell our staff, you know, I've done this for years. It used to be 3 categories. Now it's really 2. I said, is he a like it guy or is he a love it guy? It used to be, is he a like it, love it, or live it? And live it guys, although it's fun to coach them, they're dangerous because once something goes wrong, they get an injury, you know, they go off the cliff because that's all they got. And I don't want that to be all you have, right? I want you guys to be well-rounded and have other things in your life, but you got to love football. And football, you know our definition of love. Love is sacrifice. Are you willing to sacrifice for the game? And if you love it, you are. And if you like it, you're not. So if you love it, this is the best place in the country to play. You get everything you need. It's the best of everything. If you like it, ooh, this is too hard. And I think you guys can attest to that.
Definitely.
Do you go through the same process when hiring a coach?
I do. Guys that are passionate, right? That's what I look at. You know, if a guy's an hours guy, like, oh, how many hours are we working? You know, that's not – I always say this, what's your passion? That which you lose track of time when you're doing it. That's your passion. So many times I feel bad, right? But I'll walk in, I'll call my wife, say, oh, sorry, because I was watching tape and I lost track of time. And I said I'd be home at 10 and now it's 11:30 and, oh, crap, you know, I got to go. So those are the kind of guys I want. And not to just work for work's sake, but guys that love it so much, love the players. And I say, if you want to coach at Rutgers, it can't be a job. It has to be a lifestyle. It has to be a passion. Because I want them, I tell our assistant coaches, you're here to live life with your players. Coaching's part of it, but there's a lot more to it than just coaching them. You're here to live life with them. And I make it real clear, and I said, and that doesn't make you a bad guy if you don't want to do that, but that's what you have to do here. So rather than come here, if that's not what you're looking for, it's probably better off, you know, you go somewhere else.
Throughout your career, like, you produced a lot of NFL DBs that are some legendary. Like, what made you become, like, as people will call you, a DB guru?
God's will. Trust me, I had never coached DBs. I was a linebacker, and I got a GA job at Penn State. And the guy I worked for, his name was Ron Dickerson, really good DB coach. In June, he got a job offer. He went to Clemson as the defensive coordinator. And Coach Paterno didn't know who he was going to hire, and a lot of people were approaching him. I just kept working, doing my thing. I said, you know what? He knows who I am. I didn't think I'd ever get hired. He called me into his office, and he said, all right, now listen. And he's lefty. He said, I'm going to give you this job, but it's going to be $2,000 a month. He said, that's not $24,000 a year, because if it ain't working in 5 months, you're out of here. I was like, Coach, it'll work, I promise you. And I got a chance to coach, and I didn't really know enough about DBs to be the DB coach. But I had a player by the name of Darren Perry, who was a consensus All-American. He was our safety. So whenever I would install the defense, I'd put it on the board and talk him, and I'd look at Darren, you good with that? You think that's right? Good, Coach. Well, you know what, Coach? Maybe we should just move this guy over here. You know what? I think you're right, Darren. Let's move this guy over here. And he literally got me through my first year of DB coaching, and then, you know, I worked my tail off to become a D. And I loved it. Again, it became a passion. I never played the position, but I coached it for a lot of years as an assistant. And I love it. And, you know, it's the last line of defense, as you know, so you better be right? It's a detailed position, because if you're wrong, you really hurt the defense.
As a head coach, you see it all, and you watch every position. What would you think the hardest position is on the field?
To play or coach?
To play.
Well, it's always quarterback, right? That's the hardest position. But the one, I know you want me to say DB. And you know he wants that.
That's
obviously
exactly
he
what
wants
he wants.
that. But really the hardest one, I think, is O-line, because it's so – thankless, right? I mean, no one even recognizes you until you get a holding penalty or until you're standing there looking at the quarterback or helping the quarterback up because you let him get sacked. And I think it's such a physically tough position, right? Because those guys on the D-line are just coming at you. And pass protection in and of itself is like kind of losing proposition, right? It's just like trying to lose slow so the guy can get rid of the ball. But you're not going at him, you're moving back. So it's very, very hard. So I think that's a hard position to play. I know you wanted to say cornerback. I got it. Corner's not easy, but corner's more pressure, right?
Yes, sir.
Corners, you're living on the cliff every down, especially in our scheme when you play as much man as we do. But I love that. I think that's fun. If you got the right mentality, that's fun.
Well, that's really all we wanted to ask you, Coach. We really appreciate your time. But before we go,
I knew there's always one
we got
more.
one more question, and it's about a hire you made for as the leader of our dark side, Coach Harasymiak. Like, that hire was such a home run. Like, the way he's coached us, the way he's led us. How do you feel about the hire, and what made you choose him?
So, truth be told, I tried once before. I looked into him when I first brought the staff together. I wanted to bring him here as the secondary coach. But he had just made the move, and I kind of shied away from doing it. But when we made the change this time, there was nobody else. That was the only guy I talked to, the only guy I wanted, and it worked out. And he wanted to be here, right? He's a Jersey guy, and it wasn't we didn't do a lot of talking. I knew I wanted to hire him, and I had never met him. Other than the first time talking to him on the phone, I had never met him. But I knew enough people who know me and said, this is your kind of guy. And you hit that on the head. We hit a home run with Coach. And to be able to keep him, right, a lot of people came after him this year. And, again, that's where I got to say thank you to Rutgers because they stepped up big time, right, to keep him. And we're fortunate to have Coach Joe. He's, as you know, he's as good as they come. We're really blessed right now. We got, I feel, the two best coordinators in our league. And I'm sure some other coaches would feel theirs are, but I've never been more comfortable with our whole staff, and it's because those two guys leading the offense and the defense.
Definitely.
Yes, sir.
Is there any words or anything you want to say to Rutgers Nation who's tuning in to this episode?
Well, just hang on, man. It's going to get fun. I mean, we got to, God willing, we can keep after it, get you back healthy. This is a good football team and doing things the right way. I'm excited about you guys getting back here in a couple weeks here and get back to work and start to put this thing together for good.
Yes, sir.
That's kind of like for real. You got it?
Thank you for coming,
Appreciate
Coach.
you, Coach.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Appreciate
Yes,
you.
sir.